ladies and gentlemen. How you all doing? This is Con Ulrich,
Hello, hello, hello.
and we're coming to you today, Division 2. Over here on Treasure and Rang, who do we have?
On the left-hand side, in the blue, we have Farid playing Group Harty with a Maverick Income. And right-hand side in red, we have Yamin with an exclamation mark playing the first French, also with, surprisingly, a Maverick Income.
That really should just be the normal income at this point. It should be
Yes.
balanced more or less.
Everyone's seen Top Gun at this point.
Exactly, exactly. Um, Interesting enough, we actually have ourselves an opening tiger in the northern side, which is going to cause
Ooh.
quite a bit of a hassle over here for those plucky, plucky French foreign legionnaires. Um, Not a bad call per se. I'm a little concerned because they do have the partisans, which can cause a bit of a hassle, let's say.
Yeah, the northern runs are going to get completely hammered, but down south, that partisan rush, they are trying to get in all over the place. Man's going to blow up a run transport at least. They're probably not going to do all that much damage, but it's mainly just to cause a little bit of havoc right at the start.
Actually, I do like this 45 mil call-in on the town. Usually you don't see anti-tank guns or really just kind of field pieces for obvious reasons, but if you can get someone in there and kind of lock down, like, oof, that GMC going down, and lock down one of those roads coming in, that could really make life a little bit easier. Or at
Yeah,
least force your opponents to kind of pull back. I'm sorry, yes, sir.
those 45 mils actually provide pretty good high explosive fire support as well. They're actually very good all-rounders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what's more, actually having the VK9 in there, he's not going to last very long. I'm almost going to call it because those bimps are going to kind of come up and just probably slap him pretty hardcore. But the main attraction for me continues to be that tiger up to the northern side, as well as that 105 just start trying to shell him in return. As you might suspect, it doesn't go well for the 105.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting matchup. I mean, both sides have pretty deep infantry tabs, but the French just really have that better quality in infantry as we've seen in previous replays. So Farid is probably going to have to rely a bit more on his tank and mainly like Tiger and eventually Hetcher presence, as he does have a much larger tank advantage over the Yamin. But this can be a map where it's 50-50 on using tanks. On the northern area, it's not too bad, but when you start fighting over the lungs, the northern hill, the southern town, tanks only get you so far, man.
That's true. That's true, and right now we are going to see that Fried Rommel struggling to breathe as both lungs go over here to the French. But there's also a 50 mil mortar that apparently has quite an issue with the stand, which just starts to just obliterate one forest. No. Please.
He's an anti-environmentalist.
You know what? He's got the staunch trooping right there with all the Molotov cocktails, so it doesn't surprise me.
Burn it all down.
Well, yeah, man, he's raging against the machine. But they're changing fire now, going after those artillery, DCAs, and those guys. Yep, M1 carbines are all well and good, as are the occasional P17s. They're very beefy squads, of course. But against staunch trooping, I don't see this going very well.
It's mainly that half-track providing some pretty decent fire support here. And there, it's just a good amount of long-range, well, slightly longer-range firepower, but now with the T-34 being brought on up, I feel like Farid will be able to relieve his left and lung at least and get out back under control.
Yes, indeed. Those things got some very, very good coverage going on there. And a second T-34 actually being brought into the central area. I would say not too soon, but we are going to see a 57 mil to the northern side taking out a martyr, so he's giving his life, of course, for the entire cause. As the 57 mil starts getting hit by basically airside MGs and P-Grens like crazy.
And we're seeing a heavy investment in armor as well as off-map artillery up north, which is definitely a good call. If Farid can clear this northern hill and capture it, just like how in other types of other replays, you get armor or anti-tank up into that northern hill, especially with a bloody Tiger tank, you can just shut down the entire northern flank, especially against the French.
True, but that's why the French start doing things like bringing in their own crazy amounts of mortars. In fact, we have a 60 mil engaging the town to the south, which is allowing support to being pushed in, east to west here. The VK9 is going to keep him at arm's length for the time being, but all you need is one Zook.
Indeed, indeed. And Yamin's playing in the town is definitely one of his better options, as he I don't feel like he'd be able to get all the way to Farid's Rommel side. The infantry disadvantage for Rommel isn't that bad, but he can at least secure the 2 central flags in the town and maybe the run on the bridge, but even then, he'd still need to just keep up the pressure here, because this is perfect territory for him.
But the Stu 42 is going to be very, pivotal in kind of reversing that control. You can see right now he's going to move southwest. That's second 234. But if you turn your attention to the northern side, we do have Huzaroks, one falling back, but a fresh one being brought forward. And look to see Farid, indeed, bring his troops forward in the next 10 seconds.
Yeah. He's got the Jaeger Pioneers being brought up, but he doesn't have, for that northern hill, he doesn't have too much to really follow on through. He's got like the Panzer a couple Panzer Grenadiers, the T-34, but probably not enough to actually secure it.
But the 105 I was going to say is going to give us enough coverage. You can see right now the Sherman's taking some hits, the 57 mil's getting pushed back, and that's really the important thing. If the Sherman goes back and the 57 mil goes back, everything else is just extra gravy.
Managing to completely saturate the area, forcing most of those guys to go back, but yeah, Panzer Grenadiers aren't pushing through. He's just going to temporarily relieve that hill from French control. Unless those Jaeger Pioneers can come in. There's still a window of opportunity for him to make a decent appearance.
They're not going for it, though. They're going to the southeast.
Oh.
Maybe he's just pushing for 15-9 for right now, though. Because if you look, actually, the lung, he's breathing easier over here on his lung. The Huzaroks that are being brought in, unfortunately, getting pounded. Not quite to pace, but it's pretty darn close. Sherman's going to take out at least one of these Jaeger Pioneer squads, just with support fire like crazy, especially with the 12-7s backing them up. Unless the Tiger can rotate. Yeah, he's rotating down and around.
Yeah, Rommel just needs to play, like, well in these open areas. He can definitely capture that tip flag on the right lung pretty easily and keep it under control, but I think if he tries to push heavy into the opposing lung, it's just going to be way too costly for him.
Forgive me, I think I was looking down to the southern side now. The town fight is continuing to heat up. It's 13-11 over here in favor of Farid. That's really because he was able to grab a couple of quick, cheeky flags, which now are getting flipped the other direction. Now, also, I should mention, northern side, T-34 was donated over here to that BIMP squad. And the P-Grens, at long last, are being brought on in. I think they're trying to engage the 57 mil. Yep, that's a very, very important target. 12-7 only slightly less so. But there are people who kind of talk about, and I think we've had this conversation as well. It's great to have the extremely large caliber off maps, but for me, I feel like a 105 gives me much more bang for my buck. There's better coverage, there's better consistency. Yes, I'm not getting crazy amounts of damage, but when the entire point is to suppress and force a fallback, I feel like the 105, you really can't beat it.
Yeah, it's just a very nice mix between firepower and actual suppression. Because yeah, in the end of the day, like, the best off-map strikes are really just used to force enemy off points and then follow on through. And we're seeing once again here, all of those guys are being forced to bugger back, and now Farid is getting a decent infantry position on the hill. However, on the lower slope, Yamin does have a decent amount of fire support, and Farid doesn't have the ability right now, or doesn't want to risk moving up his tank to try and provide fire support.
And that, I think, is a bit of a shame, because I would like to see the Stu 42 actually get brought to the east. Does it have a ton of anti-tank? Absolutely not. It has 6 shells at this point, but you have it to keep the infantry off the slopes. It's great to have armored fighting vehicles in the area, but tanks don't take and hold ground. That's the job of the PBI.
And the PBI are really having a poor bloody job right now up north. Those Panzer Grenadiers being utterly suppressed. We've got last off-map artillery strike here, but that's not, even if it does hit those guys, it's not going to do too much, as Farid doesn't have a whole lot of troops to follow on through.
So you're just saying the PBIs have a PBJ, sounds like. So, yes. Unfortunately, I don't think they're really doing a great job. I'll see myself out. In the meantime, looking back to the southern side, these Legionnaires have been brought on in because we are right over here on the brink of going into Phase B, which I actually think is a really great call to go late stage with Phase A. You've now had the opportunity to see where your opponent's putting a lot of his units. And these Legionnaires, these are the guys that take and hold. They have the frag charges. They have a great weapons loadout. these are the guys you wait to see where anywhere concentrated, and then you send them in there. I think that's a great, great call.
They're going to be very tough to rout out because of that bloody fanatical trait. And we do see Rommel bringing in the mortar, which is definitely a very good call. Very, constant pressure onto that hill, accurate firepower, but needs to build a good strike package of, like a T-34 to a couple squads of infantry. Yenny could really secure that northern hill if he manages to follow through, and he's just kind of squandered the opportunity a bit.
Yeah, and at this point, too, the Tiger is great at being much more active than just a pure fire support role, and I feel like he's been kind of squandering that 130-point call-in.
Yeah, we're seeing actually two P-47s being brought in, trying to kill the Stew. Does a lot of damage, but no kill. And it's actually, okay, not a huge anti-aircraft presence, but still enough to make those P-47s think twice about sticking about.
Well, I want to kind of call it, there is an 81 mil how track on both north and south. So you're saying about trying to make sure it's an effective strike package, which is very, very true. But I don't think it's going to have the same kind of salience over here on the southern side that it does in the north. Meanwhile, M4 Sherman and a T-34 are going to have a wet noodle contest where they can both technically kill each other. And the emphasis on technically.
It's technically possible, but they'll probably run out of ammunition before that happens. And now Farid has definitely lost quite a lot of momentum since the early portions of the map. I think he's trying to regain a bit of that up north. I mean, Yamin's still holding that point pretty strong. I think Yamin just needs to try to push maybe the opposing lung position again and just keep that pressure up in the town. He's been pushed back a bit in the town, but it's mainly just due to his armoured fire support and that mortar being brought up. But, I mean, you're playing the French. You have some bloody fantastic infantry.
And some nice fire support yourself, too. You just see right now we got a lot of mortars. Actually, he has the potential to bring in 12 between 60s and 80s. Got a couple in the town already. Can be decently effective with those. Trying to see if there's anything longer range. Just a 105 howitzer to the north. But no, I mean, it's just an 81 dueling against a 60 mil. 260 mils, in fact. I guess I think I'd like to see the 60 mils be used in a much more frontline support as opposed to trying to suppress the 81 in the back.
Yeah, they're not good for counter-battery fire. You want to be using them to pinpoint enemy infantry squads like the Hussar-Rogs and just annihilate them. Especially against a mortar half-track. You're not going to do too much damage.
No. No, just like that VK9 is not going to do a whole lot of damage to a fully armored and operational battle station. I mean, Sherman. Inside that town. So it's just some interesting decisions here. I say interesting the same way that your teacher said it's interesting when you're like, yeah, I'm sure it's interesting, but kind of more like, what are you thinking?
Sure, we'll take another question.
Moving forward to T-34 going into that town. And there we go. Finally, the 60s are starting to engage the rights of Jaegers, which is a much better call. Or at minimum, between the rights of Jaegers and the front lines are going after those 45 mils. Those would be the arenas in which to look. Not again, look at the front line or the back line positions. Of course, I say that. I look back, and the 81 was taken out by it, too. So.
Oh wow. I'm actually quite impressed by that. That's.
At least I'm assuming so.
I'm gonna assume that as well. Or maybe it was the Sherman. No, it had to be. Anyway, it's dead. That's all that matters. It's not coming back. There's no revive mechanic.
That's right, Jim. It's never coming back.
It's never coming back. Here we are seeing a whole heap of armor support here from Farid. I feel like he's trying to push across his plateau and just, bugger the hill, bugger the forest. We're just gonna balls on right through and just try to shut it down. And he is in a position to do that. The northern hill, I mean, there's a lot of bit of anti-tank on both positions. But if he was to use his armor, I feel like he can afford to engage in that tank engagement.
Yeah, I think so too. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to zone off the Marquisards and the Legionnaires that are being brought on in. But there's enough armor wrapping around the northern part of that hill that maybe... Oh yeah, wow, that is a rather unique path. We don't see that path ever get used.
The T-34?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's a... It's actually surprising we don't see that being used as often, because that's a very good raid to just try to provide some sneaky backline fire support, yeah, and maybe pick off a unit or two before they can get onto the hill.
I think it might be because people are so afraid of edgelording, which,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
as a chivalric move, I completely understand. As a tactical one, I don't. It's a really, really great way to kind of stem any kind of tide coming on in, because again, they don't have the anti-tank to really be super efficient if the opponent is facing.
Yeah, that's really what Farid needs to get his tanks into good positions to really just pound these forest positions. Even down south, if Farid gets like fully pushed out the town, he still has a very good amount of fire support, which he can just use to make sure that the French never leave the bloody town, one way or another.
Very much one of those moments of they can leave, but they'll be doing it in coffins.
Yes.
Two Legionnaires, in the meantime, two squads pinned down, which, you know, they might be fanatical. They might just say the Legion only says die, but they are dying, and they are dying in droves.
Yep. Yeah, good call to pull back. Fortunately for Farid, like I'm so happy we get to see Harty because we don't really see him much anymore. They have a lovely mix of light fire support vehicles, which are definitely helping out quite a lot in this case. Until a Sherman rolls on by. A Sherman is a bit of a tough customer.
It's a tough customer, yes, but it is a killable customer. It's a very killable customer. 50 mil trying to engage that corner. Not entirely sure exactly what was going on there. We did actually notice a P-47 to the northern side taking out that flanking T-34. But there's so much junk in this area, the French can't stop that.
Yeah.
Like again, please, just if you want to mouse over that, there's like layers upon layers of units being brought on forward. It's actually quite impressive.
Oh yeah, especially up north. Holy moly, yeah, it's bringing in the Hungarian cavalry, quite literally.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry you wouldn't say this, sir, please.
Oh yeah, it's like this has been a very static B phase really, where both sides just, have the opportunity with the income to make big pushes, and yeah, it feels like this will end up, unless something major happens in regards to an actual offensive push. It's just feeling like a pretty grindy match.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with grind if it's like the right kind of grind. It's not just a grind in that town. I mean, the great thing about this is we've seen some very, very interesting play on this northern approach. Some non-standard movements around this hill. Yes, we've seen the lungs have gone kind of seesawed back and forth, and we're going to see right now a bit of a push on the back of P3Ns, which is a nice difference.
Yeah.
But with Shermans engaging and killing a T-34.
Bad, not bad. Yeah, I feel like with a grindy match, Farid will be in a slight advantage just because he has more late game armor, especially that like C phase Hetcher card. That's 12 bloody Hetchers.
But you're right,
that's
though.
nasty.
They really could be just very, very joyous kind of customers as well. So I completely
could be.
understand. Yeah. One thing I will say that I kind of feel bad about is the 45 mil. Like I'm looking very briefly down to the south as Martyrs are now engaging this terrifying, terrifying Sherman. Is a 45 mil is vastly underpowered against the M4. You might be able to kind of plink it to death, but that's not going to be your first move.
Yeah, it's mainly for infantry fire support and knocking out those half tracks. It can potentially kill those M10s, but you really want to be using the Martyrs for that case.
If I can turn your attention one more time here to the northern side, we have 10 squads of infantry. 5 have already debarked. Another 5 are being brought forwards. Yeah, this is the punch that takes Yamin off that northern hill for quite a bit of time.
Especially with the Tiger leading the charge. There's no infantry anti-tank really to speak of. So if that Tiger gets into position on the hill, he can zone out and we're seeing Stugs or Stews and Martyrs pushing across the plateau. Yeah, he's just trying to make a kill and blow up north here.
But there's Marauders and P-47s. So the Marauders are take out the infantry. The Stew goes down to one of the P-47s. And the other Marauder is watching take out that Tiger. That would be heartbreaking to a certain extent. That's exactly what's going to happen. I'm calling it. He's taken some incidental, I think, fire already.
See what it does?
Yep, and it obliterates the northern approach.
Holy, who needs off-map artillery and you can just have temporary on-map artillery?
I have never had a bombing run be that good.
Yeah,
Ever.
like how the infantry were lined up, yeah, that was perfect. But it's not going to be enough to secure the hill.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, and the weird thing is we have these martyrs, which actually are in a really, really great position. And the 57 mil might be able to take them out, but there's still more than enough time for the kind of pinned down infantry to kind of recover their wits. And yeah, good luck foot slogging away up that hill. That is a very, very, very difficult position to come back from.
Yeah, and especially with all the Hungarians, as we know from previous experiences of Hungarian infantry, they may be a one-trick pony in terms of their firepower, but there's a lot of them.
And that's the other thing too. You know, one-trick ponies are still talented ponies.
Mm-hmm. They're very good ponies.
40 mil is really heftily engaging a lot of infantry on that hill, which is good. Don't get me wrong. He's got another 320 rounds. But now, Pigron's engaging him in turn. He's probably going to take out one squad, but I can't guarantee he's going to be able to do it consistently.
Yeah. The problem with the anti-aircraft weapons is that you do take a little bit more damage compared to ground fire. And that Ron Pan's Grenadier almost completely suppressing that Bofors gun.
On the other side, in the meantime, I'm going to continue to pivot back here for a moment. We do have a couple of the M10s. And with P3s in there, too, it should be fairly easy kills. The concern here is there's still way too many 2 or 3 to 1 kind of odds down here. So good luck. That's not going to be a long-term thing for success, I don't think.
Yeah, and Yamin does not have the tank number, or tank destroy numbers in this case, to actually sustain tank losses. Like, he's going to have to get, 2 to 3 scores for every one of his M10s just to try and maintain equivalency.
Which is kind of weird when you think about it, because if you go just strictly by tank tab, it should be fairly even. Unfortunately, that is very much not the case.
The anti-tank tab really,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the support and anti-tank tab really tips balance into Farid Rommel.
Well, in the meantime, M10 is going to be taking hits from that 50 mil mortar. And again, I kind of feel like technically that should kill if they drop one right on top of it, but we know that's rarely, if ever, going to happen.
Yeah, there's no bullseye, hitbox on any of these units, unfortunately. Oh, damn! M10 gets sniped, yeah, I believe by the Panzer III or something.
Well, I think the one that just perished over here in the meantime. P-47 going to go to pick up that martyr. Question is, can the ground fire punish him? Because there's still a hefty amount of air power that has not really been utilized. I say hefty amount that hasn't been utilized, even more so than what they've already been slamming into the ground. We've had the B-26s pretty consistently. We've had P-47s pretty consistently. And you see right now, it oscillates back and forth between 14-10, now 13-11. Yes, sir.
And it's going to be very important in the later stages of the game to use the air power, because Harty has a decent-ish anti-aircraft tab, no long-range ATH in this case. So he needs to try and exploit the use of just, those very effective bombing runs, as we saw, with very beefy aircraft. Those P-47s and Martyrs are hard to take down from 20 mil fire.
I will say, I've been impressed by the effectiveness of the 105 howitzer. The M3 howitzer just now, in its anti-tank role as it fires softballs at about 30 seconds, 30 seconds a meter.
Speed, it eventually gets you.
Exactly. It's mailing it, and if the tank's there, that's great, and if it's not there, then somebody's going to get hit. But this lung position has been kind of a liability. This eastern lung position has been a liability over here for Farid Rommel. He's lost an awful lot of equipment there. Unnecessarily, I would argue.
It's a very good position which Yamin can use to just try and strike into the side of Farid Rommel's current push. And it's going to be hard for Rommel to actually push into that forest. He doesn't have any more off-map artillery left, or really much on-map artillery apart from the single 81mm. He doesn't have a whole lot of bombing support either. And, of course, going CQC against Legionnaires is never a smart move. So he just needs to try and suppress the hell out of the forest, control the edges of it, where the flags are located, and then just That's really all he can do.
Somewhat bizarrely, we're seeing super late game scouts being brought into the south, the Lukes being kind of thrown into the front. And on the face of it, I was kind of confused, but actually, I really kind of like this right now. Because you're using them to be effective against those Legionnaires, which, if you stay out of the TNT range, you should be okay, but the satchel charges do have the potential to kill.
I do. Yeah, I do like very much Yamin's push in the town, how he's kind of just hooked around like the far southern flank and made it a very long front line for Farid Rommel to engage with. And there we go, the VK's taking some casualties here from the Supers, and that's going to force him to back off.
Yeah, and that's the bit of issue I do have with that call in is that it's a one yeah, yikes. Is that one anti-tank piece of material can cause way too much in the way of hassles for you. 4 squads arrive too late, 3 DP grens, and 1 right to Jaeger. But at this point, you've lost initiative there.
Yeah. Really, for Farid, his best bet is just trying to secure the far southern part of the town back. He's still doing pretty good 13-11 just due to northern gains. But really just try to secure the far southern flag, and he does have potential in the central part of the town to push on through. Yamin's position is a bit weaker as you invest in pretty heavy up north, but that's just going to be, once again, CQC against the French. It's way too costly.
Yes, it is. But that's why we're seeing, well, like northern side, for example, we're seeing lines of defense. For me, actually, I'd like to see them get posted a little bit further east towards the slope. P-47 is making runs. That's not going to happen. B-26 Marauder, though, he's gonna get bombs on harder. Probably won't die for this, but he'll want to have thought about it. Yikes! And the Marauder to the north. Oh, this is gonna hurt.
Marauders are killing the Marders. What has the road come to?
Kind of makes sense when you think about it, though.
And we got a good follow-up here of Yamin with his Macard spam. Oh, wow.
One of the B-26s get taken down by ground fire.
Wow.
That is half of his B-26 is gone, so the terror has been just cut in half.
It's a pretty good snipe. Be curious to see if Yamin's push up north will be enough to actually secure the hill. It's not as much tank fire support left, and there's a decent amount of infantry from Farid, but Yamin has way more infantry.
That's true, but now Farid has brought in a new type of terror, the HE-111 he should have been able to bring in the Phase A. He brought it down south, and those 3 squads that were holding them up?
Oh. Where'd
Do you
they go?
see that smoking crater where that town used to be?
Yeah. I think I see some Kepes in the crater.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you see some kind of bloody bouillabaisse, that's not any kind of Russian dish. That's the French, unfortunately.
All over the place.
Very much so. Marquis Sards are making a push from Northern Hill, and it's great they have the Raider trait, but these guys are made to get much closer than they really have the opportunity to get here.
Yeah, long range firepower is pretty crap. It's all about, once again, using the Molotovs and the Stens. If Farid can just, he does have a good, killing field of fire for him to actually blow up his Marquis Sards. But there's also a decent amount of fire support from Yamin's side. Those 105s are providing constant but very slow fire support.
True. Town is starting to go back to Farid here. You're right to say that the French do have a quality, but the quantity does remain over here with the Hungarians.
Yeah.
We've seen that evidence pretty closely now. Yep, 50 mil mortar engaging a command sappers, which, while it may not immediately get a kill, will continue to suppress and allow the right Diegos to move on in. And when right Diegos set up shop, oh man, they can ride on straight to glory there. So,
indeed they can. It's always been a very odd unit to use. I think Eugene was utterly trolling us by adding 3 guys with the Kar-98. Because anytime you try to move up the right Jaegers, and you don't turn off the Kar-98 at long range, you just have the 3 guys plinking the boat actions. And then you have the dude with the SMGs and the assault rifles going, come on, we wanna go. We can't shoot.
Yeah, yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Mhm.
But if they just all had MP44s, they would just be stormtroops. They wouldn't be Red Seekers, would they?
Yes. God damn you and your historical accuracy, Eugene.
Well, at that point, they've got to go and just buff out the Unity roster somehow.
Yeah. We're also seeing
Um,
one of my favourite units being brought onto the field, the Jagdpanzer 38T, otherwise known as the Hetcher. And just look at Sexy Beast Gun. The ergonomics inside of that thing is utterly superb. Just ask any German tanker.
Yeah, I will say it is ridiculously tiny. If you've ever been lucky to see them live, they are extremely
Hmm.
tiny. Yep, whoever made that clearly was a bit of a masochist or a sadist, depending on whether he actually had to use the stupid thing.
Or a Russian
Um,
tank designer.
yeah, yeah, or a Czech, really. Which I guess when you think about it, they're like, who did this? And someone else is like, Czech, please. And at that point, the Germans had to foot the bill.
Yeah.
Um, But in the meantime, there's no denying those things were ridiculously deadly for what they were trying to accomplish with them. So,
Yeah, especially also just having those APCR shells. They can really punch above their rate, which is definitely overkill in this case when just fighting against a single M10. It's going to be about wherever you can get those Jagdpanzers up into the north. Even though I have limited high explosive shells, you actually provide some fire support here, because Yamin is slowly but surely securing that hill.
yes, he is, for the time being, I would say. I think it's just because we are seeing Farid being a little bit nervous about investing too much artillery. He does not want that M10 to kind of peek over the hill and start to engage his vehicles down to the western slope. That'd be my opining, of course. Marcus Hart's in the meantime, as you can see right now, here we go. The Jagdpanzer is going to start putting some HE fire support on the hillside.
Just the lack of infantry anti-tank is really going to hurt Yamin.
Exactly. Exactly. P-47 down to the south, going to go and is he doing a blind bomber? Well, what he's going to be doing is going to be calling some issues here. No, he's not even going for a bomber at all.
Oh, I guess he's just going for a lot of flyby, just wants to inspect the other side's lines.
It seems certainly to be the case on that one. I hope he knows this is a no smoking area, though.
I think he's been well informed.
Well, he's certainly getting away. He knows not to smoke in this particular region. So, looking back to the northern side as the fighting heats back up. Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen such a grindy thing over this little hilltop right here. This is the little round top of eastern. I'm sure which Chedron actually is. I'm not going to lie to you.
I think it's in Belarus.
Ah, so it's okay. So Belarus over here. So Belarus kind of area. Okay.
Yeah. It's really just so Jagdpanzers finally getting into a good position. I think Yamin's lack of tanks is really starting to screw him over. He's lost a lot of his Shermans and M10s already. And by God, he doesn't have a whole lot of them left.
Interestingly enough, I'm surprised by the amount of HE on the Jagdpanzer. Oh, Legionnaires being thrown out into the northern side, but being encouraged to back away to the other side of things. Is that HE-111 again to the south? Yes, HE-111 again to the south. He's not smoking, but I'll tell you what we'll be smoking in a second. Yep. Superiors. And yeah, falling back.
Ridiculous amount of firepower here. Such a good infantry spam here from Farid to try and push back into the town. Once again, he's probably not going to get into the centre, but he at least secures the far southern tip, which is really the important part here.
Piece of me that wonders. Oof. Softball just took out one of the Jagdpanzers. And is that the other Marauder's coming back in? So I'm going to call it this other Marauder probably going to go down. Just how much firepower's on the ground.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go. And that is a problem. That's a very big problem.
That's a very close quarters but deadly German anti-aircraft net with 4, 5, 6, 20mm guns is going at it.
Probably lucky over here for Yamin that the anti-aircraft positions, or at least the flak tracks, haven't moved forward to be used in the anti-infantry role.
Oh,
because all those Marquisards and Legionnaires would just be, well, kind of pasted. But we are seeing a 14-11 as we go into the 35th minute of this particular match. We are going to have, well, a small breather as the next Hussar wave gets brought into position. I don't know. I'm not sure how Yamin can pull this back. I feel like you said already, a lot of that armored vehicles have been killed, and as talented as their infantry might be, I don't know if they might be able to turn this back around.
Yeah, I think Farid has done a very good job of forcing an engagement throughout this match in his favourable terrain, which is out in the open. I mean, down south, he's managed to at least zone off and not completely lose it, resecuring his light lung position, and then just a little open areas in the plateau. And just the northern position, this is all areas which Farid wants to engage in. And as we're seeing, as Yamin tries to mount these attacks, he's making good progress up north, just due to the sheer rate of Frenchmen he has at his disposal. But he needs to get to the other areas of the map, and they're a bit too dug in.
I'm actually quite impressed by this machine gun battery that we're seeing. There's three Airsats MGs. There's a fourth one who's just kind of chilling. But there are three MGs that were engaging these Legionnaires on the southern side of that north hilltop. And now we're seeing... Oh, yeah, there we go. See, there's the anti-aircraft net. Ooh, yeah, baby, that's it.
He definitely went a little bit too close here.
Oh, yeah. With the flak building over here, with all those delicious, delicious 20 mils. You can see right now, what are you going to do against that? It is, I think, quite literally impossible to stand up to just a wave of Hungarian troops. There's just too many targets.
Yep, a very beefy target chat, yeah. Just a bit of extra fight. I mean, also, Yamin has a good amount of fire support, but not as infantry killy, so to speak.
Well, he does have that, but unfortunately they are by this water or ascending slowly towards that plateau. So that's just not going to be enough.
Yeah. And then for Yamin, this is only a single flag, and he can't really push off this hill once he captures it. He needs to push, like, really the central position is his best bet to push, but that requires fighting out in the open. And then down south, once again, it's just like a single flag he could potentially capture, which... It's just he has to make very costly gains, or very costly pushes for very little gain.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to continue to watch this northern hilltop assault between the flak track engaging Marquis Sards. We're seeing all the grenadiers and the pioneers being brought on in. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And see, there you go. There's a 105 howitzer. Does a lot of damage, but it's taken forever to get one of them up there. And there's so much firepower from every single direction. We have 4 different MGs engaging infantry as they charge to come up, engaging infantry at the tip of the hill. And there's still just all of these men. One squad gets pinned and 3 more move past them. One squad gets killed, there's still 2 more to back them up. It's just a wave of Hungarian barbarians.
Yeah, and the M10s are coming in. Right, I say a lot of machine gun, but he doesn't have that much machine gun ammo or HE ammo.
No. And the 410 puts paid on that particular account. Which I was actually kind of concerned we weren't going to see a 410 at all. But, you know, at least that's one thing we don't have to worry about. And Yamin taps out. Honestly, I agree with it.
Yeah, GG. And very close KD. Holy moly.
Part of that's helped by, I think, losing some of the more beefy squads. If we're looking at things like, really a lot of the infantry, 30 points largely across most of Hartnick. Well, 25 or 30, really. Just a Starship and an A, the only ones who are not. And honestly, dropping a couple Tigers here and there, that's also going to go and boost that pretty hardcore.
Indeed. Then looking at the kills, nothing really catches my eyes. It's very spread out.
Yeah, and the same thing kind of happens over here in the losses as well, with the HE-111 killing 3 with that one magical bomb run. And the Hussars over here in the meantime, well, one squad of Hussars, Kurta, who kill 4 squads. And actually, that makes me wonder, going back to that B-26 that killed the Tiger. He only killed one of the mortar. Yeah,
Oh.
So when it comes from the Hungarian kind of push, pretty consistent all around. When it comes from the French side, again, pretty consistent all the way around. Nothing too crazy from either side. But any final thoughts there, sir?
No, no, just nice to see Hartnick.
It is. It is. It's nice to see Hardnick again. But folks, that's gonna about do it for us right now. Of course, back on Thursday with another replay. Until that time, I'm Conor.
Rangaroo, take it easy.